pastor, Japanese pastor, that this was the church that hosted the first Japanese Methodist church when they had nowhere to go. And they was thanking us for it. Do you remember that? Any of you guys remember that? But anyhow, yes. So we have a kindred connection here. The next voice you'll hear will be that of Reverend Mark. Amen? Amen. I told him doctor. He says, I'm no doctor. I said, but you know how to operate. So let's walk with Mark.
How can I follow that? Thank you, Cavaline. Thank you, Cavaline, so much for that generous introduction. And Rich on the piano. It's been great. I've been listening to Rich, hearing Rich for the past, 5, 6, 7 years, every year at Christmas, when we have our clergy Christmas gatherings, Rich, because our immediate past district superintendent here on the West was someone you birthed, Reverend Dr. Kathy Wilborn. And Kathy, in her wisdom, has had Rich come out and play at least a half a dozen times that I can remember at our holiday Christmas parties, as well as other functions that we have had on the district. So great to be here and great to hear that music. Okay. You know, I knew that I was coming to Hollypark this morning, but I really didn't get the full impact of it until I got up this morning about 6 o'clock, and as I walked by the kitchen counter, my phone was lit up. And someone had sent me a text at 4 a.m. And it was Cavaline. And I was tempted to just call him and say, what are you doing up so early? I'm trying to let you sleep in this morning. But that's the kind of pastor you have. Someone who doesn't just get up in the morning, he gets up early. And the reason he gets up early isn't like most of us to open up the paper and drink that first cup of coffee, but he is communing with the Lord. And that is why Hollypark is the church that it is today. These ceiling fans, I commended your trustees chair. I like the way these ceiling fans are affixed to the posts here. Gives me some ideas for some of other churches around the district that are financially challenged to a certain extent and need some repairs and things, but this gives me an example. So when you start to get calls from other churches saying, hey, we want to come over and check out Hollypark, I'm the one who's getting out the word. As you all know, the West District office is not that far away, 190th and Normandy. And as I drive out here every day from my residence in West Los Angeles, it brings back fond memories of my time here in the city of Gardena. And most of my early experiences with Gardena have to do with water. When I was about 5 or 6 years old, my father took me and my brother out to Alondra Park. I forget what the occasion was for, but as we were walking around the lake, I slipped and fell into the lake. And a few years after that, our parents got us enrolled in swimming classes out at the Gardena Swim School. And to this day, I still remember that swimming pool because at a time when most swimming pools had a deep end that went down 9 feet, the pool at Gardena went down 12 feet. And it was always a challenge for me to see if I can get down there, touch the bottom of the pool, and get back up alive. And I was able to do it, as you can tell. I don't know if I could do it today, but I was able to do it. And then finally, as a young person who grew up at Centenary United Methodist Church, the former property over on 35th and Normandy, now Centenary is in Little Tokyo, but back in those days when we were on 35th and Normandy, our youth group fellowship with the MYF that was out at the church that used to be North Gardena United Methodist Church, right over on Normandy and Rosecrans, next to the card clubs, I confess. But that today is Faith United Methodist Church over on 182nd and Van Ness. And as a matter of fact, next Sunday, they have been out of their sanctuary for the past year and a half because of a remodel. And next Sunday, under the guidance of Pastor Kathy Warborn, they are going to have their Back in the Sanctuary celebration from, I believe, 12 and 3. So if you haven't been invited by them, I'm inviting you as a district superintendent to get over there. I will be over there, I believe, at 1:30 or 2 o'clock for the blessing. But please know that is happening right down the street. So a lot of things happening right here in this part of the district. And that's why your theme, the best is yet to come, is so important, so timely, and so right for this time that we find ourselves in. I commend you on this theme because there is so much to commend Hollypark United Methodist Church on its many forward-looking ministries. The best is yet to come. I like it because it's forward-looking, which is how our God operates. Our God is a God who leads people forward, who moves us into new times and places in ministry that we might not ever consider if it were left to our own devices. But in ministries and challenges that God knows we are capable of carrying out. Hollypark has been about those types of ministries. First of all, the personal ministry of your pastor, which was why he could only stop and say hi at the picnic yesterday and had to move on to minister to those who are in need. The community ministries that you are so involved in, the food program that you have partnered with the city of Gardena, the cancer ministry, Celebrate Life, so needed, so important nowadays. The ministry that this church partners with young women who have been unfortunate victims of abuse. These are not ministries that are sophisticated, that are technologically sexy. These are not the types of ministries that are going to get you on the front page of the LA Times or on cable TV. But these are the precise ministries that God is calling the church of Jesus Christ to be about. Amen. Caroline texted me about an hour ago, said, are you going to be pulling up in the Cadillac or the Rolls? I said, sorry, I'm going to be in the Nissan. And I reminded him, not that he needs reminding, but I reminded him, Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey. Jesus rode into Jerusalem on a donkey, not on a stallion. And that's what we are about. Taking the word and the ministry of Jesus Christ to where it is needed the most, to where it has a chance to flourish and manifest itself in ways that may never be seen visibly by the world at large, but that will be felt and experienced by those who are searching for God and the love of Christ Jesus. That presence that Hollypark United Methodist Church is busy at work delivering. The scripture lessons that you have chosen for today are so relevant to your theme. And they speak to this attitude of moving forward. The best is yet to come. Amen. Leviticus 25 speaks of the concept of the year of Jubilee, a concept that was so important to ancient Israel. After every 7 years, the people of Israel were instructed to stop and rest, to honor the Sabbath. And then after 7 years, of every 7 years, on the 50th year, they were instructed to establish a year of Jubilee, where all debts would be forgiven, all sins forgiven, where people could start afresh and move forward because the best in their lives were yet to come. The New Testament reading from 2 Corinthians, and I appreciate that because Donald Trump calls this 2 Corinthians. So Vanessa Williams knows her Bible better than a presidential candidate. 2 Corinthians, this passage speaks about God who knows all, who knows what is best for God's children. And we are guided by one who knows the best and therefore moves us in the direction that also is best for us. And then finally, the passage from Luke chapter 4, Jesus' very first sermon that he delivers in the Jerusalem temple. And in this sermon, he echoes what we heard in Leviticus about the concept of Jubilee. The blind will be able to see. The poor will be given good news. The hungry will be fed. The good news of Jesus then and now is that the best is yet to come. I watched that UCLA football game last night. Between that and the USC game on Friday, I can only hope that the best is yet to come. Thank God the Rams are back in town. Maybe we will see some of that best is yet to come pretty soon. The best is yet to come. For as much as Hollypark United Methodist Church has accomplished, God bless you, there is still so much more to do and so much more that you can and will accomplish. Not just because of the leadership of your pastor, not just because of the sincerity and the commitment of you and other laity here in this church, that is so important, but because of a gracious, compassionate, inspirational, and guiding God who knows that there is always something better and that the best is always yet to come. I'm reminded of the story of a young pastor who was assigned his very first church. And on his very first Sunday, after the offering baskets came back, he looked in those baskets and saw the meager amount of money that was in them. He looked at these baskets and then looked up to the congregation and said, "What is this? We can't have this. We have to do better than this." He thought for a couple of moments, looked up and addressed the congregation. This church has a bright future in front of it. We can and will accomplish so many great things together. But there's a couple things we're going to have to do. A couple things we're going to have to learn before we can get to where I know we can get to. The first thing this church is going to have to learn is how to walk. How to walk. At that point, a few lone voices shouted out, "Make it walk, preacher. Make it walk." The preacher continued, "And after we learn how to walk, we're going to learn how to run. How to run."
Come on with it.
And then a few more voices shouted out, "Let it run, preacher. Make it run." And then after we learn how to run, said the preacher, we're going to learn how to fly. We're going to learn how to fly. And at that point, almost half the people in the room shouted, "Make it fly, preacher. Make it fly." And then the preacher said, "But before we learn how to walk and how to run and how to fly, we're going to have to learn how to give." And so I want all the ushers to come back up, take these baskets. We're going to pass them around the congregation one more time. And I want all of you to dig deep, go south for the money, and put it in these baskets. And at that point, a lone voice shouted from the rear, "Let it walk, preacher. Let it walk." The only thing that young preacher could hope for is that the best would be yet to come. The best is yet to come. Not only for Hollypark, but for all of our churches. And not just churches here on the West District, but here in the California Pacific Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church. I'm tired of seeing all the obituaries that are writing off mainline churches, calling us old line churches. To paraphrase the words of Mark Twain, notices of our death are greatly premature. For as I said 3 weeks ago at the welcoming for Bishop Hagia and partly for myself, I am really inspired by what I have seen as I have gone around the district thus far. Whether it was St. John's out in Watts last Sunday, or Wilshire Church prior to that, or Grace Long Beach, where I met with the SPRC 2 weeks ago and where I'll be in the pulpit next Sunday. I am truly inspired by the work, by the faith, by the commitment that I see our churches working through. Yes, we have and continue to go through what I just see as a generational transition, but this is not the first time in history that generational transition has happened in the church. And I am hopeful that the best for all of our churches is still yet to come. In fact, it's happening right now here on the district. Several stories that I shared a few weeks ago that give me reasons for this hope and inspiration. One of our churches that happens to be in a well-served part of our district is committing part of its own budget and deploying one of its own staff people to assist and strengthen a preschool and a daycare center in another one of our churches that is in an underserved area of our district. That gives me hope that the best is yet to come. Last month, only 2 weeks after I took over the chair in the district office, I met with our South area pastor, South LA area pastors, South Central to me, but now it's fashionable to call it South LA, who got together and are in the works of putting together a plan to partner with at least one LAUSD school, whether it be elementary school or a middle school or a high school in their area. The public school system being as fractured as it is, and also being pressured on the one side by charter movements, and on the other side by for-profit education, these pastors have come to me and said, we need to do something to give all children in our area a leg up in education so we can prepare them. And this is an opportunity for the United Methodist Church to re-establish itself as an educational pillar as we once were known to be. Pastors who have come to me with ideas for new ways of worship, not simply because they're new, but because they are relevant and speak to the times that we are in, a time in which we can no longer simply take for granted that the people next door and across the street from us worship the same God we worship, and even if they do, in the same way that we do. Ways of worship that speak in new and relevant ways for new and contemporary times. Now, I see that you already got it down, so you're past that point. The best is yet to come, and Hollypark United Methodist Church is playing such a powerful and instrumental role in revealing the best of God's church that is on its way. This morning, it came to my mind this morning that I was coming to a church celebrating its 60th anniversary in a city that takes its name in part to the tradition of the Japanese American families who settled here after the internment camps of World War II, and many of them had husbands and fathers who were gardeners. And then it also occurred to me the importance of the number 60 in terms of Japanese culture. I turned 60 last year, so I had to learn about all this. That in Japanese culture, when a person turns 60, that is a very special time in that person's life. The Japanese word kanreki, based on the lunar calendar, the ancient lunar calendar of Asian cultures. But what kanreki simply means, and for whatever reason, the 60th year was established as this, is that 60 marks not the beginning of the end, if I could put it that way, but the beginning of the new. That in our Asian understanding of the cycles of life, that 60 is the age at which you start life anew. And so rather than thinking that, oh man, I'm only 5 years away from Medicare, which has been on my mind lately, with the way healthcare is getting the way it's getting, that actually I need to readjust my attitude and start going the other way. That no, this is the time of life, at least in the tradition of my ancestors, that it's new, that it is beginning, that it is forward-looking and not so much looking in the rearview mirror. And so for Hollypark, this is the year of Kanreki, the 60th year, a year not to think only about the past, that is important, but to think about how your past informs your present and where that can take you into the future. And so in that tradition, the best is yet to come. I again applaud all of you for the mission, the ministry that you are carrying out right from this place. I stopped off at the district office this morning on my way here, and as I was driving here, it didn't dawn on me how far north the city of Gardena extended. I thought it ended at Redondo Beach Boulevard. But the best is still yet to come. And so many of the manifestations of the best of God's kingdom that have yet to come have started, are starting, and will continue to start right here on 135th. The best is yet to come. Amen.